Okay, so today we're going to be discussing Hillary Clinton's platform on firearms. So let's get right down to it. As president, Hillary will increase the number of gun sales subject to background check. I wonder how she's going to do that. All right, so on the first bullet it says comprehensive federal background check legislation. And I quote, background checks reduce gun trafficking, reduce the lethality of domestic violence, reduce unlawful gun transfers to dangerous individuals. No, they don't. No, they don't. Quote, it's reprehensible that bipartisan legislation failed in Congress after the Sandy Hook elementary shooting. Okay, first off, that wasn't bipartisan legislation. You only had one or two Republicans on it and the rest were Democrats, vice versa. That bill was pretty much split down party lines. It would not have prevented Sandy Hook. What's reprehensible here, Hillary, is that you took a bill, you took a tragedy such as Sandy Hook, you took the deaths of those children to exploit a bill that would not have prevented Sandy Hook. And you threw those kids in our faces like they were your human shield. If anything's reprehensible, it's you, Hillary. And now that it failed in Congress, that should tell you something. But Hillary's not giving up. She will continue to fight for legislation to build on the Brady Bill's success. You see, she's not only it's not only failed Congress, all right. And she got the Brady Bill in place. It's another gun control law that was passed in the 90s. But she's going to continue to move the goalposts. And she's going to continue to do so on the bodies of dead children, regardless if that law she's proposing would have saved those children. Closing the quote, Charleston loophole. It's funny how these people like to come up with their buzzwords. All right. So basically what she's talking about here is the law put in place, part of the Brady Bill, that says, okay, you know what? At FFLs, you're conducting background checks. If you want to buy a gun through an FFL, you have to go through a background check. If you want to buy a brand new gun, you've got to go through a background check. Now, part of the protection in there to make sure that background check gets done, since we're already obviously, making you prove your innocence until you can exercise a right, which goes against the spirit of our founders when they drafted the Constitution, when they formed this nation. That's beside the point. Basically, what it's done is it said, okay, we have to go through the background check. The max it'll be done, it will take on it is 3 days. If we can't find anything in 3 days, you're good to buy the gun. Now, this is assuming you're a law-abiding citizen. Obviously, if you're a felon, it's already illegal for you to be buying a gun. And you'll know if you're a prohibited person. They will tell you in court that you're a prohibited person. But anyway, so, again, Hillary wants to move the goalpost. This is why you can't compromise with these people. Because no matter what compromise you make with them, it's never going to be good enough. And part of the reason that protection was in there is because if you know how government institutions work, part of it is if they don't want you doing something, but they have a system like background checks where they say, we have to actually clear you to do it. All they have to do is just sit on it. And I think that's what Hillary and friends are hoping will happen. So, again, there's good reasons not to, quote, close this Charleston loophole. Tightening gun shows and internet sales if Congress won't. So basically right here, there is no such thing as gun show sales or internet sales loopholes. Again, another buzzword. Gun show loophole has been a buzzword that's been around since at least the 90s. And of course, the Charleston loophole and the internet sales loophole came up a bit sooner than that. But guys, when you're selling a gun at a gun show or on the internet, you go through all this, it's subject to the same laws if you're selling a gun in person. And by the way, you're talking about sale on the internet. You can't mail a firearm via mail. You have to make a transfer in person. Anyway, gun show, you got to be there in person anyway too. And in either case, if it's an FFL, they have to conduct a background check on you. So, Hillary's not only being dishonest about this, but she says she's going to bypass Congress. If she can't get a law passed the legal way, she's just going to dictate from the executive office. Let that one sink in. Okay. To ensure the safety of our communities is prioritized over the profits of the gun lobby. Okay. So she starts off, repeal the gun industry's unique community protection. Well, no, it's not unique, and it's not unique to the gun industry. A lot of other industries have had to have those protections put in place to protect them from junk lawsuits too. And actually what she's talking about is the Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, which I've got my notes on it right here. And basically, all it is protection from junk lawsuits. It's basically like if, say, Johnny has a P226 he bought, it was stolen, and it was now used in a crime. The gun control lobby can't go back and sue the manufacturer of this P226. It's like if a DPD had this P226. Those are issued sidearm, and say a criminal took it and then later went on to kill somebody with it. The family of the person that was killed can't go back and sue Sig Sauer because a criminally misused their firearms. It would be, it basically protects against those sort of lawsuits. It's like, if a bank robber used a Chevy Camaro as a getaway car, the bank couldn't come back and sue Chevy, because a criminal misused their product. It's basically what the PLCAA does. What it doesn't do is it doesn't make them immune from being sued for defective products or being held liable for defective products. It doesn't make them immune from breach of contract. It doesn't make them immune, say, if they themselves, the manufacturer, FFL themselves, engages in criminal conduct. You have to have an FFL for both manufacturer and dealer, but it doesn't prevent any FFLs from being held liable if they acted in a criminal fashion themselves, and it doesn't actually prevent them from being sued for any other usual reason that a company would get sued for. All this does is just simply says, hey, you know what? Sorry your children died. We understand that, but, they're not responsible for this. They didn't have anything to do with this. We're not going to let you put this junk lawsuit out on them. Revoke licenses of bad actor dealers. Well, you know what? Even the NRA is for that. There are a lot of people that are in favor of criminal prosecutions of dealers that are knowingly breaking the law. Hillary believes we must do more to crack down on gun stores that, quote, flood our community with illegal guns. Okay. So, while she doesn't come out here and explicitly say this, there are laws against it, by the way. she's wanting to come out here and move the goalpost on what those laws should be. And by the way, yeah, if you sell to somebody who's a straw purchaser, you get in big trouble as an FFL. My bet, and this is just speculation, is that, if somebody comes into a gun store, 2 or 3 times a month and purchases a gun, or maybe not even that much, but maybe 2 or 3 times a year and purchases a gun, she wants that stopped. And again, that's me speculating. Hillary will fight to keep the hands out of domestic abusers and other violent criminals and the severely mentally ill. Okay, on that. Okay, so she goes on to say, support legislation to stop domestic abusers from buying and possessing guns. Yeah, you know what? That's already illegal. I mean, even with the Lautenberg Amendment, it's already a legal Class C misdemeanor. You so much as raise your voice at, your spouse, you can be arrested for domestic violence, and your firearm rights can be revoked like that in some states. Okay, let's go on to see what she says. Although federal law prohibits domestic abusers from purchasing or possessing guns, the protection does not apply to dating relationships or convicted stalkers. Okay, you know what? This is very vague here on what a dating relationship is. I mean, when you're saying a dating relationship, how do you legally define that? Somebody slept together one time, somebody said hi to another, somebody said, "Oh, hey, we're dating." How do you define that? And convicted stalkers, well, how do you define, again, how do you define that? Because the laws in the states vary from state to state. My guess is that she's going to want it to broaden the definition so much. In fact, this is what she's saying right here. She wants to broaden the definition even more and more and more to make more prohibited persons. Even though, dating relationships, it's hard to define what a dating relationship is. Because people have a lot of different definitions of it. Does it mean sleeping together one time? Does it mean sleeping together 10 times? Does it mean going out on 1 date, 2 dates, 5 dates? So you kind of see where this is a little bit different than, say, dealing with somebody you're legally married to. Make straw purchase a federal crime. It already is, Hillary. Here's where Hillary's being dishonest with you. When an individual buys with a clean record buys a gun with the intent of giving it to a violent felon, only so the felon can avoid a background check, it should be a crime. It is a crime. It is a crime. And it doesn't even matter if I'm buying a gun, without the intent to give it to a felon. If, say, I eventually one day grow tired of this gun, and, somebody I know is a prohibited person comes up, well, you know what, I'll buy this gun from you for a really decent price. It would still be a crime for me to sell them the gun. Let that sink in. Let that one sink in there too, because she's now lying about what the law actually is. Quote, close loopholes that let people suffering from mental illnesses purchase and possess guns. Okay, well, you know what? Again, Hillary is not being very genuine with you here. There's already a process to where somebody with a mental illness is prohibited from owning a gun. There's already a definition of that already out there. But what Hillary wants to do is Hillary wants to take any little minor mental illness here and, something that doesn't even make you violent, something that doesn't make you dangerous from owning a firearm, and she wants to expand that to expand the prohibited persons list. Again, this is an example of a gun control advocate moving the goalposts. And down to the last point here, keeping military-style weapons off our streets. Military-style assault weapons do not belong on our streets. They are a danger to our law enforcement communities, and Hillary will work to keep assault weapons off our streets and supports reinstating the assault weapons ban. No, they're not out about banning anything, are they? Yeah, and secondly, all right, in 1934, we came up with a definition of firearms that fall under one or two classes, NFA Title I, FA Title II. We decided that all the ones that were more dangerous go into NFA Title II, and they have certain restrictions that fall with them. The rest of the firearms we've designated as NFA Title I, meaning these firearms are good for citizens to own. Now, in the 80s, many gun control advocates decided that they weren't going to have any luck with moving the goalpost and banning handguns, outright, nationwide, which is their goal. So they switched to military-style assault weapons, or assault weapons, because it was a gun they thought they had a better chance of banning, and they actually did manage to get a federal assault weapons ban passed through in 1994. Thankfully, that had a sunset on it. And if you look at the version in 1994, and you look at, the versions they keep on coming up with now, they noticeably get more and more restrictive. This is another example of gun control advocates moving the goalpost. If you look at California's and New York's assault weapons bans, they have passed laws to constantly modify these and keep on placing more and more and more firearms into that category. This is about moving the goalposts. This is about moving to more and more and more restrictions. And somebody's going to say, gun control advocates always come out and say, nobody's trying to take your guns. Well, the fact of the matter is that they are. They can't come out and say this. They're not going to come out. People like Hillary aren't going to come out one night and guns are banned like that. Even Hillary's smart enough to know, especially Hillary's smart enough to know that's not going to work. But what they do is they come out, and again, I put plenty of examples from her platform where she's being dishonest, disingenuous, or attempting to move the goalposts. This is their strategy. This sums it up right here. They're going to keep on moving and moving and moving the goalposts slowly. They're going to do things like remove protection, from junk lawsuits from the firearm industry, so they can get those they can sue the manufacturers out of business, or scare manufacturers out of business, so nobody's manufacturing firearms for civilian possession anymore. They're going to go around the legislative process on that and just jump straight into using judicial terrorism to accomplish their goals. Well, I shouldn't say terrorism, coercion to accomplish their goals. They're going to move the goalposts. They're going to try to do whatever they can to add more and more people in that prohibited persons category. They're going to do stuff such as ban any type of firearm that they think they can get a ban pushed through on. They're going to make firearm ownership as burdensome as they possibly can, to discourage more and more people from getting into the hobby, buying the tools that they want to use for self-protection, and so on and so on. They're going to make it harder for people to inherit the firearms that the relative had. So, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you understand why I will not be voting for Hillary. I hope you understand why I will, if Hillary gets the nomination, I will be voting for any Republican over Hillary, just to make sure she does not get that office. And speaking of accountability, by the way, I know she talked about the accountability with gun manufacturers and the PLCAA, which she distinctively misrepresented. Let's see how Hillary reacts when she's held to accountable for something she did have direct control over.
Again, we were misled that there were supposedly protests and then something sprang out of that, an assault sprang out of that. And that was easily ascertained that was not the fact.
But
and the American people could have known that within days, and they didn't know that.
With all due respect, the fact is we had 4 dead Americans. Was it because of a protest, or was it because of guys out for a walk one night who decided they'd go kill some Americans? What difference at this point does it make? It is.
See, that shows how truly interested in accountability Hillary is. The situation they're talking about, her department was heading that up all the way through. When she's being called to account for her actions in all of this, what difference does it make? But yet, if you're a manufacturer of a product that she doesn't like in the hands of honest, law-abiding citizens, and somebody happens to misuse that product or criminally misuse that product and murder people, even though you're the gun manufacturer, you didn't have a say in that at all, she still wants you to be held accountable. This isn't about accountability on the PLCAA. Now, I want to bring that point up again. It's not about their accountability. This is about Hillary Clinton and her supporters being able to abuse a litigation system, a civil court system, to punish people for doing things that she simply doesn't like. She has no interest in accountability. Thank you all. Y'all take it easy now. And one more thing before I go. I know at the end of that I did get a little bit more off topic, but I did want to prove a point on that. So guys, again, y'all take her easy.